in 2016, and we have over 300 students taking a la carte DP classes. So in 2 years, we've gone from 153 to almost 400. So the program is expanding, and we will continue to do that in the future. You know, the IB program is a theory-thinking global program, and we think it's well within the guise to keep it moving forward and expanding it.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
all for answering that question. The next question, I'm going to seek clarification, one moment, from Superintendent Gallagher. Is this on the ballot in November?
Yes, there's a Wayne County Regional Enhancement Millage that is on the ballot
Okay,
in November, and I think that's what that's
Okay.
referring.
thank you for clarifying. So the question is, are you for or against the RESA enhancement millage, such as was just explained by the superintendent? And we could start with Matt.
That's an easy question. There couldn't possibly be somebody more against this millage than me. There isn't a worse deal that I could possibly imagine than the Northville residents being taxed and receiving 52 cents on the dollar, with the balance of the money being spread amongst other districts. There is a total of $80 million subsidy over this $480 million tax. Of that, $30 million of that subsidy goes directly to Detroit Public Schools. We just bailed them out to the tune of $610 million. They received $50 million in annual debt service payments, and in this year's budget, they decided to save exactly $0. They missed their enrollment. Their best guess of missing enrollment will mean that they're now $6 million to the deficit in their first year of operations. I don't think that's something we should subsidize. This board voted 7-0 to keep it off the ballot, but unfortunately some of our friends and neighbors elected to put it on the ballot. They've all said they'd like to hear what the voters have to think. I made a presentation a couple days ago or weeks ago about it. I'd encourage you to visit my website, and you can see the presentation, and you can see all the bad things about this Wayne RESA millage. And I encourage you not only to vote for me, but also vote no on the last issue on the ballot.
Thank you. Lori.
I agree as well that you should. I don't think the money is going to the right place if we're paying for that, but we're not seeking really a lot of money to gain in our district. I believe that I would vote no on it for sure. Because we want to see money coming into this to enhance programs, just like you were talking about, enhancing other programs here, and that isn't a whole lot of money coming here, and it's more money going out to other districts.
Thank you.
This is not a normal tax increase, and I commend the board for voting to keep this off the ballot. I would have done the same thing if I were on the board. Again, this is not a normal tax increase. I would actually liken it to a pyramid tax scheme whereby those at the bottom are the ones that are paying, and that money is flowing up to the one at the top. So Northville families are at the bottom. We're the ones that will have to fund and send money to the top, and that is Detroit Public Schools. So it's an unfair, it's an unwarranted tax increase, and I do not support it. And I also ask that Northville voters vote no on the proposal.
Thank you. Cindy.
Thank you. We, as Matt said, we have voted in the last couple of years against supporting it. We get mixed reviews from the community. Well, even though we're paying in $1, we're getting 52 cents back, so I guess it's better than nothing. But it does, Northville is a donor district. It does put money elsewhere. It doesn't keep it in our own backyard. And if we continue to approve this millage, then when we come to the voters again and we want to keep the dollars in our own district, then they're going to say, well, we're already paying on this, why should we do that? So it's a really difficult question to answer. I don't think it benefits us in any given way. I'd rather have a millage or a bond issue where we can keep the dollars in our own backyard, use them for our own purpose and for no one else's purpose. So I have never supported it, and I think that the community should look long and hard about the pros and cons. Do we keep the 52 cents or do we not? It's a hard call.
Thank you. And Sarah, to close the question.
I see almost nothing as nevers and worst deals ever, as some of my colleagues at the table do, who I greatly respect. And this is one of them. I voted no on this millage. I don't think that this is what the community wanted to see this board do. And again, I think I represented to you here tonight, and I will tell you that this isn't about me or my opinion of things. It's about me representing what I think the constituents of this community want. And I didn't get the sense from talking to folks and my study and examination of the issue that given giving $1 in taxes and getting 52 cents back for our specific community was what the voters wanted to see done. That said, the reason that I think it's a little bit, tiny bit more gray is because you do get more money for your operating budget if this millage passes. This is the one and only way to increase that operating budget for our teachers to be paid more, to hire more teachers, to have perhaps smaller class sizes, to perhaps get some of that better furniture in the classroom that I hear people talking about, and some of the other wants we have. And I do hear that from constituents too. I mean, people have wants. So to the extent that this would have brought money to the district in the operating budget, I think that's the other side of the coin. That said, I didn't understand, as I say, that people wanted to see this happen, and that means that you can go out and vote your conscience, because it will be on the ballot, and follow what voters want to have. And I think this is an illustration of my view that many things are complicated in life, and that I have a duty here as in the chair that I sit in, as long as I sit in it, to do what I think the majority of voters would want me to do as their representative.
Thank you. And that leads to a great next question. So the next question will be starting with Lori. There has been feedback from the audience about class size and how class size is determined, and what is your opinion of class size? There has been expression of too many students in an elementary class. So how do you determine what's the appropriate class size, and how, as a board member, would you help influence that throughout the district?
My educational background, I think, gives me a little bit of an upper hand on that. I have experienced class sizes of 36, and I've also experienced class sizes of 21. Ideally, at an elementary level, you'd probably want about 25 or 26 in a classroom. And you want lower class sizes. Why? Because you can get around to those kids and you can help them and differentiate learning. And you want to keep those class sizes low. So I think you have to take, I think this board does a very good job. I've been sitting at every meeting since I applied to be a board member and run on the ballot. And I think this board does an excellent job of talking about class sizes, and they have really tried to make sure that those class sizes don't go above a certain number in the district, and if it does, then they're trying to find another teacher to bring in so the class sizes can be lowered. So I feel that they're doing a very good job here, and they know the impact of large class sizes and what that means. So yeah, I definitely, the lower class size works much better in an educational setting.
Thank you. Scott?
I want to echo Lori's comments that I do believe that the school board is addressing the issue as best as they can. I mean, it really is a tough issue because of the budget constraints. But also, I do hear from folks, I'm on the Dad's Club over at Ridgewood, I do hear from folks that the class sizes are perhaps a little bit too large. And of course, when you have more students, the interaction between the teacher and the student is a little bit less. So I do support smaller class sizes. So how do we continue to reduce the class size? Exactly, we have to perhaps add additional teachers, but that's going to take funds. And so we're going to have to think long and hard about the budget, and again, prioritize, perhaps make some tough choices. But I think right now that things are pretty good, but we can still do a little bit better. Thanks.
Thank you. Cindy?
As far as class size, you know, the last 2 years, Deanna Barish has been looking, particularly in the high school, to make sure that those class sizes have averaged out. We had some highs, we had some lows. A good amount of time was done at the high school to realign coursework and curriculum to make sure that, see if we could combine classes or those types of things to make sure that those class sizes came down. At the elementary level, we did authorize 4 teacher hires at the elementary level, and we gave Dave Rogers in the HR department the ability to choose where he felt those were, as well as allowing at the elementary level, when the teachers felt it appropriate, to have blended classes. A 3-4 split, a 1-2 split, so that they could more appropriately reach the same amount of students with the same amount of curriculum that was needed, but had that flexibility to address larger class sizes than they wanted to see, but to be able to still deliver that classroom curriculum that they were looking at. So we do look at it on an ongoing basis. We start looking at it the first part of August, and until we get our enrollment pretty well concrete until the end, it is a roll of the dice at every meeting that we go to. But we did this year give Dave the opportunity to fill those positions that he felt really was needed in order to have our elementary parents happy.
Thank you. And to clarify for the audience, Dave is the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources?
Sorry,
Correct.
yes.
So just so, and they're saying Dave, and then Deanna is the Curriculum Assistant Superintendent?
of
Correct.
Curriculum and Instruction.
So if you have questions about that, Mary Kay would be available afterwards if you have more specific.
Sorry, we're trying to keep it concise.
I know, that's what I
Cut
said,
it
but
off
just
a
to
little too
clarify for
early.
those either watching on TV or in the audience who may not know all the
Thank you.
names of who the people are. Thank you. And Sarah?
Thank you. I think our expert in the classroom has echoed what I think we probably all understand and agree on, that smaller classes are typically going to be better for kids. And I have been an advocate for smaller class sizes in these recent months as we've looked at the need for hiring. I voted, we didn't have a formal vote, but I gave support certainly to hiring. We hired at Silver Springs, we hired at Winchester and other schools. Certainly at the high school, we've been working on this issue, and it is a huge priority for me. I also have a website, it's northvilleschoolboard.com, and I feature this issue front and center. Why? Because I hear about it from parents, and I know that it's important to them, and I understand it. I'm a parent too, and I have the exact same concerns that I'm hearing from other folks. So the second half of the question is, what can we do to help bring class sizes down? And I think that we absolutely have control over this as the school board. We can and have given authority to hire, and I would continue to do so, absolutely. Certainly keeping our eye on the budget, which we always have to do. But to me, this is a very important priority.
Thank you. Matt?
That's a great question. This is an area of focus. We beat on this every August of every year. Over the past, since 2013, we have added new teachers every year. The only way to combat the problem is to actually hire more teachers, which we've done every single year. This year, we hired 8. You're allowed to do that when you manage your budget in an appropriate fashion, and it gives you the wherewithal to do that. Particularly, this is difficult because we have a blessing, and that is we have growing enrollment. Often at times, the number of kids that are enrolled in the class on August the 1st is different from the number that are enrolled on August the 30th in an upward fashion. So that provides challenges. It's a very difficult job. However, everyone in the audience should know that attendance is the primary source of funding for the school district. If you get a kid, you get $8,100. If that kid leaves, you get 0. We've had to focus on that as we did when we did the realignment with Ridgewood. We reduced class sizes and overall volume within that school, and as a result, up to 40 kids that previously selected to go to academy came back into our district. We're pretty proud of that. We focused on 2 particular areas, lower L class size and making sure that upper L core and middle school core were below where they were before. I think we've been successful at doing that. Can we do better? We always can, but it's certainly an area of focus of the board.
Thank you. And to advertise, tomorrow is Student Count Day, correct? So make sure all of your students are in Student Count Day tomorrow, and that will help answer their questions for next year. So the next question will go to Scott. There is current legislation pending regarding third graders to be mandated if they haven't reached reading literacy. It's currently pending. So what does the district, or as a potential Board of Education member, do you see as the district's way to respond to this legislation? Should it be voted in?
Can you repeat the question? Thank you.
Sure. And for the person in the audience, I'm doing my best to translate. So currently, there is pending legislation in the Michigan House and Michigan Senate that's going to require third graders have reading literacy. If they have not reached that by third grade, I believe the legislation requires them to stay within, to be retained. What is the district doing to respond to this upcoming legislation? And as a potential Board of Education member, what would you do for that legislation?
Well, I'm not in favor of high-stakes testing, and I think that perhaps that's the way that it would be determined whether a student has qualified to move on. And I think there are multiple ways that we can evaluate students that's outside of a testing environment to determine whether or not they should proceed or graduate to fourth grade. So I'm not entirely in favor of that. I think it's kind of a rigid framework. I know it hasn't necessarily been pushed down yet, so we haven't seen all the details yet, so it's hard to exactly comment, but at least at this time, from what I know, not entirely in favor.
Thank you. Cindy?
You know, it's a very difficult thing to look a parent in the eye and say, you know, I think we need to hold your child back. There's just, it's a difficult process to go to. It can be devastating for the child. I understand why the legislature is looking to do this, but, you know, we already have prevention programs in place. Our intervention programs, looking at giving that extra classroom environment, outside classroom environment. Our teachers are looking at testing and assessment scores every day to delve into the deeper data and try and identify what needs to be done further in the classroom. I'm not in favor of doing it unless there is a decision with the parents. Perhaps the parents realize that maybe that is in the best interest of their child. That is a dialogue that should happen between the teacher and the administrator of the building. However, I think that we are already in the front edge of making sure that we have identified these children who might be in that position that they may need to be held back. And we've already put in interventions in place to get them to the level where they need to be to go on to fourth grade. So we are on the edge of it, and we are doing it proactively.
Thank you. Sarah?
Thank you. It's a great question and an interesting issue. It's certainly the case that when somebody in Lansing or Washington DC or wherever else draws a line, it's a line, and there are cases that are not really accommodated around that line. Everybody can understand the desire to have third graders be literate, right? We can all understand the desire to have third graders be ready to go on, and of course literacy is at the core of all the other learning acquisition steps we need to take as we go on from there. So I don't think that anybody could possibly dispute that this is an important area of focus, and that third grade is a line, maybe an important line. But to me, I feel that the trend has been, and the ongoing pattern that we seem to be chasing fads in education reform is towards drawing particular lines that don't necessarily take into account what the teacher sees, what the parent sees, what the administrator sees, that works with that kid day to day to day to day. And so that's the flaw, and to me, a fatal flaw in this system. Here in Northville, I will agree with Cindy that we have really, really implemented great programs to avoid those problems really being big ones for our students.
Thank you. Matt?
Well, this is not, as you would probably know, the only issue where the MDE or the legislature has stepped in and told us what to do. This particular piece of legislation isn't aimed at us. We don't do social promotion on a broad scale at this district. We have been told by our educational professionals, and I agree with this, that mandated retention is not the best policy. For two particular reasons. One is it completely removes the role of parent choice. The ultimate decision maker